Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host, Nathaniel, and I'm so pleased to introduce a special guest today, Celia Kibler, who is an internationally recognized parenting expert, award-winning author, and a founder of beabetterparent.com and the Day of Calm Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to ending violence and aggression toward children through calm, proactive parenting and personal responsibility. Celia, you've been doing this for a long time, over 40 years of experience, and you've helped over 1 million parents worldwide, which is just so amazing. We're really excited to have you on the show. I love the practical approach you are bringing, and the Day of Calm is just around the corner. So, really excited to talk about that today. I'd just like to welcome you to share more about who you are and why do you do what you do? What's that fire inside?
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me on as a guest and sharing this with your audience because it's so important.
Hmm.
I do what I do. I am all about helping parents themselves not yelling at children and
Hmm.
stopping aggressive behavior towards children. I am also all about really encouraging humans, any human, whatever role they play in life, to start taking personal responsibility, have emotional intelligence so that they can stop blaming and making excuses and really show up the way we need each person to show up.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, all this violence and rage is not going to end. We are creating the next generation. Everybody that has children, their job is so important and there is so much responsibility there, and it has to be taken seriously. And so, through these various avenues, beabetterparent.com, my coaching, the Be a Better Parent app, the International Day of Calm, and the Day of Calm Foundation, it is encouraging people to recognize that calm is not cowardly. Calm is not wimpy. Whatever they say, calm is not soft
Hmm.
because there's a lot of that. Calm is leadership.
Hmm.
When we teach our children and we model for others what it is like to respond to a situation calmly instead of emotionally reactively, we
Hmm.
can literally change the dynamic of this world.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And it really does. I mean, it's so in alignment with that sentiment of be the change you wish to see. To me, being calm is it speaks to being at peace, and it also speaks to being in alignment with ourselves and how we wish to be treated. It's interesting, Julie and I, one of the experiences I can attest to this is like a life or death situation. We had a natural home birth, and I had the most amazing privilege of welcoming our little daughter into the world. And I caught her, and just the level of presence that she had, Celia, was just so amazing. And then, fast forward a few moments, um, and Julia had lost almost 2 pints of blood, and she was beginning to fade. And I actually have a background. I've been trained in like first aid, CPR training as a trainer, and but also I credit a lot of it as my own personal journey, the meditation that I do, and I knew that if I were to emotionally react to the situation, that I would have probably caused her heart to beat faster, to cause more emotional tension in the space. So I, in maintaining my own calm in that situation, activating EMS and all that we needed to do, even though thankfully we had a wonderful naturopath who was able to, using homeopathy, stop the blood, stop the bleeding, and we did not have to go to the hospital, which was really a blessing. But that sense of calm, I feel is so important because in a day and age where so many people are feeling intensified pressures of polarity and all the noise out there, I feel like it's so much more important that we bring our presence, our calmness, to the ones we love and to not react to one another. I feel like we are all needing that presence more than ever. So I'm curious, what has been the wellspring, the inspiration for you to do this? What's the journey behind your work?
Well, you know, from my childhood, I had a dad who was a yeller and a mom who was very calm. Gratefully, both parents loved us unconditionally. Even though my father yelled and had a very short temper, his love was evident. He had our backs 100%. But he came from a father who was physically and mentally abusive. Now he
Mm,
decided and he made a decision not to bring that physical abuse into our home, but he didn't have the emotional capacity to control his temper or how to do it.
mm,
Highly intelligent human being. I mean, incredibly smart and did so much for humanity, but couldn't, when things triggered him, it set him off. And when that happened, he was very loud. He was verbally abusive to my mom. And he always felt terrible about it up
mm,
to 92 years old when he passed away. We had discussions about how guilty he felt over the years that he wasn't able to control it. And honestly, he wasn't willing. I mean, there has to be some personal responsibility there.
mm,
He wasn't willing to go get the therapy needed to conquer those demons that he had.
mm,
And so, in that experience, I know how, of me and my three siblings, there's four people there that you can see what the results are in behaviors and thoughts and beliefs. For me, I'm very much like my mother. And, but all of my beliefs were I'm mediocre. I second guess myself. I wasn't confident. I've truly, until recently, probably 10 years ago, did I even feel worthy of
mm,
the success or any of that. And it really makes you feel like you're a bad kid. You don't do anything right. Everything you
mm,
do is wrong. And that's what happens when you're constantly yelled at or hit, that people like to soften with the word spanking, which,
mm.
I argue often that spanking is hitting. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Um, but it truly impacts the person it's happening to.
Mm,
And you either come out of an aggressive parenting situation, aggressive yourself, bullies come from bullies, or
mm,
you come out like me, peacemaker. I wanted to make sure everything was great. I worked hard not to deal with confrontation. I mean, I kind of became the ultimate calm human because I decided one day the whole world has to calm down and I have to help do it. So
mm,
I really came out the like ultimate peacemaker. But that's how you come out. And then you live with the voices in your head, those children, and they are children that shoot up schools or that
mm,
rage, against retail environments, street fights, all of that. They are emotionally dysfunctional.
mm,
And they came from a family or a parenting or no parenting where they were not taught that. We have to learn it. It's not part of our brain when we're born.
mm,
And so living with that and then having my own children, my oldest is 43, blending my family, that was 30 years ago. I realized when I bring these three boys into our home, I recognize that these five kids didn't ask for this. They didn't say, "Oh, please, divorce from our parents, give us new parents, let's have a new home, let's have new people in
mm,
it." They don't ask for that. So the way we decided to do it was very intentional
mm,
so that these kids would feel welcome in our home as my own children did.
mm,
And I created the system I use now to teach parents how to do it. And I don't say you're never going to yell. But what I do, if you work with me, is I remove the need to yell.
mm,
Cooperation happens, listening happens, everybody's on the same team. And there is
mm,
just not the necessity of yelling and
mm,
losing your cool. You don't become so overwhelmed.
mm.
And so that's kind of the journey and how it all happened and came to be.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, I see that comes from a rich, direct experience. And, it's interesting how some of our greatest teachers in life can be our parents or people who've challenged us. And it often sparks in us the purpose that we came here to fulfill. And so bringing more calm to the world, I think is really wonderful. Um, I'm as you were speaking, I was, reminiscent of some of the moments we've had with our daughter and being around her parents and how their parenting style is a lot different than ours. We communicate very wholesomely and explain things. And I feel like I grew up too in a home where there was more dysregulation and like losings of temper. And like you, I became much more of the listener, much more of the space holder. And I've never been comfortable yelling at someone. I think the only time I would yell is if someone is in danger and I need to get
Right.
their attention.
Me too.
And other than that, I just don't see it as an effective communication style because I've always been overly sensitive, and I know our daughter is sensitive too, in the sense of like energetics and for me, it led to quite neurodivergent tendencies in my life, and I feel like if my sensitivity would have been nurtured more, I think that I probably wouldn't have had the same, challenges with, ADHD and things like that because I just would have been, met with I would have been communicated in the way that would have worked better for me. But that I think has made me a better, more cognizant and more aware as a parent to not be harsh, because children, I don't know about you, Celia. We talk a lot about on the show how our children are really such amazing teachers and also I feel like amazing leaders. To me, there is such a level of courage that comes to, them, pardon me, to
You're
them
fine.
just expressing and who they are. What would you say is so important for parents to realize about that sensitivity for their children?
Well, one thing you have to understand, so many parents think their child is an adult. We created these little adults. You didn't create little adults, you created little humans. Like there are little penguins and little hippos and little horses, and those animals have to learn to be the adult version of that animal. They don't just come out doing that. Somewhere along the way, they learn, and humans are probably the least able of any infant, form of animal that there is. We are the most demanding of somebody caring for us. We are incapable of doing so much. We are capable of expressing emotions because we're full of emotions. We don't have any way to regulate those emotions. We don't have impulse control. We don't have any way to see things logically, like we look at this logically. A child can't. It
Hmm.
can't look at a reasonable variation of something. And so, as a parent, we have to understand that. We have to understand that you are talking to a child with an underdeveloped brain, severely underdeveloped compared to yours. You
Hmm.
can't expect the same responses because not because they don't know how to respond, it doesn't exist in their brain. It's not even there for them to reach for like it is for you. And
Hmm.
how are they going to learn it? They're going to learn it from you. So if
Yeah.
you're screaming and yelling at a child and you're raging, first of all, you're throwing a tantrum, just like the child
Hmm.
is. Second of all,
Yeah.
you're teaching them that when they're disappointed, that's what they get to do because it's what you do.
Hmm.
Everything you do, whether good or not so good, you are teaching your child and giving them permission to do.
Hmm. Hmm. So important, and that development. I mean, the way we look at our daughter is she's a mirror of us, and she shows us also patterns that we need to look at. And so, if there's a part of us, and I think we all have these, I look at humans almost like trees. We still have these parts of ourselves, like our baby and our toddler and our preteen. All these aspects are still there, and I feel like sometimes we get traumatized at certain of those levels, and if we haven't fully um, brought to wholeness, those patterns, those tantrums and those things can come up. So our children give us an opportunity like, oh yeah, I do still have tantrums, and but it requires a level of self discernment and of compassion to realize that. And I think at the end of the day, realizing that we are having such big impacts on these extremely sensitive little beings who are
Yes.
they are going to take those things to heart in a way that we probably don't even remember how attuned we were when we were that age. So I think it's a very important message, Celia.
Yeah. And in your mention about learning from them, there's so much to learn from them. Just because they have an underdeveloped brain doesn't mean they're not smart.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they don't see the world simplistically, and that simplicity can be so eye-opening to us who has like an ending flow of information going through our brain at any minute.
Yes.
And we can actually learn from them to
Hmm.
stop, to pause, to touch, to taste, to look at something, to examine, to have a conversation around the leaf. It is just so inspirational if you're willing to look at it that way,
Hmm.
to see life through the eyes of a child.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's no accident that Christ told us only through the eyes of a child can we enter into the kingdom of heaven. And I believe that that state of consciousness, of wonderment, of recognizing the miraculous in life is something to aspire to. And I feel like our children remind us of that. And yet we also have this role as parents to inspire in them, conscious stewardship and emotional regulation. So they're watching us all the time, right? They're
All the
watching how
time.
we're interacting with other people in the house, or what they're listening to what we're talking about. And I feel like what I've noticed is there's different levels of awareness around a lot of people, and we have other, relatives and stuff who are parents, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this assumption like, oh, they don't understand, they don't get it. But I actually have a lot of memory from being very young, and I might not have had all the complexities of understanding, but I certainly was aware of the emotional tones, and I could put two and two together, but in a simplistic way. So I understood and I was listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're very observant. That old adage, do what I say, not as I do. 100% incorrect. They will always do as you do, not necessarily what you say. And communication itself is 80% nonverbal.
Mm.
So, how you're delivering the words is making much more of an impact than the words themselves. And it is important to realize that everything you do is a lesson for a child. And you can turn it into a great lesson. You can turn it into a not so great lesson. You can ignore it, and then there's no lesson. But if you take the responsibility of understanding that I am their coach, I am their teacher, I am their guide, I am not their doer. You shouldn't do everything for them. They need
Mhm.
to learn.
Yeah.
I am not their like micromanager.
Yeah,
They need to have some air, some space, some
sure.
adventure.
Absolutely.
But they do always notice how people react to them
Mm.
and act toward them. I can walk into a restaurant. It's happened to me many times, and and some little kid will run up to my leg and hug it. And the
Hmm.
parent's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "It's okay. It happens because of the energy
Yeah.
between me and the child."
Yeah.
Like I walk into a restaurant, I don't look at any parents, adults. I look like what kids are here. I just am always looking for a child.
Yeah.
I teach kids fitness classes, and they are
Mm.
parent-child classes.
Yeah.
I literally, Nathaniel, have to and I've been doing it for 40 years. I have to talk myself into looking up at a parent's face because
Mm.
I so naturally stare at the children. I'm like, look up, look, like in the back of my mind, look up, look up. But there is a spiritual connection. And I don't have to tell you that we're all connected through energy.
Yeah.
And so if there is a toxic energy, you best believe those children feel it
Yeah.
and they take it to heart.
Mm.
and it can absolutely negatively affect the way they look at themselves, the way they look at life.
Yeah, it's really interesting the subtleties. And it's funny, our daughter, we had a lot of compliments for her, just how socially engaged she is and how caring. She always wants to share things. We hear a lot of things about like children are very selfish and they're always taking and we're not going to institutionalize our daughter at all. So she's not going to daycare. We're just going to homeschool her, and she's going to really have really an interesting life because she's going to get to decide for herself a lot of things. And she's in this phase right now where everything is by myself, like whether it's putting on a shirt or pants, and
Right.
and we let her
Independence is ruling.
independent. Oh yeah, there's this drive like for her, she wants to do everything herself, and I'm really of the mindset of teaching competence rather than fear. And I've noticed other like a couple of our parents on both sides, everything's like careful, careful, watch this, watch
Right.
that, and the last thing I want for her to be is afraid of her environment. I want her to be aware of her environment. I want her to be able to know that she can when she can competently move down the stairs and to have that that self-confidence and knowing where her limits are. And I feel like it's important, like you said, for children to go on adventures. It is important for children to be able to some degree, I say this very intentionally, like to some degree, they need to be able to hurt themselves in a way that is
Absolutely.
controlled. So they understand, okay, I shouldn't just
That
fly
didn't
off the
work out so
stairs.
well.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
try a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so much. So what is in the work that you do with Be a Better Parent .com, your coaching work, what are some of the transformations that you've seen? Because I'd imagine as you help the parent become more self-aware of the impacts that they're having on their children, I imagine you see like relationships flourish, families come back to a sense of harmony and wholeness. What's the favorite part
Absolutely.
of your work? Yeah.
And I've been working with parents and kids for over 40 years, and is it's always rewarding. I hate to even say it's work because it's not work. I like love it. I love when I'm talking to a client and they're like, I haven't yelled all week. The kids noticed it. They gave it like I have one where it's like my child woke up and gave me a big hug and said, I like this mommy. Like
Mm,
as if you became the old mommy and now you're a new mommy. That's like so cool
wow.
to
Wow.
hear out of your child.
Yeah.
And the thing is it builds connection. Parents will be like, I don't have time to learn, your methods, your
Mm,
system, your framework. I'm like, you don't, how do I say that? You don't have time not to learn it. Did
yeah.
that did that come out?
Yeah. I
Negative,
thought that's what you were
positive,
going to say.
reverse, whatever. You
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
because it makes time.
Yeah.
If you think about the time a parent spends dealing with tantrums or yelling at them or
Right.
giving them 80,000 choices before they scream and yell and just take over. Will you
Mm,
do this? Will you do this? Will you do this? Stop asking.
mm,
Ask once, follow through. The
yeah.
end, one time. Don't get yourself all crazy and yelling. And the thing is that what happens is you are regulating the whole family
Hmm.
into a calm environment.
Hmm.
So one of the biggest things that happen when I work with parents that their kids have tantrums 5 or 6 times a day, or they're like, no, and they like freak out every time they get told no, that stops and it
Mm,
stops fast. And all
mm,
of a sudden the parent's like, my child hasn't had a tantrum all week. Will they
mm,
never have a tantrum? Of course they'll have a tantrum once in a while. And of course you'll yell. We all have good days and bad days. I mean, I'm not going to say this is never going to happen again,
yeah.
but what happens is you create a different environment. You're
Yeah.
not racing out the door first thing in the morning. I have a parent who recently, well, she still works with me, but she's lessened her coaching calls because she doesn't need them as often. And she has 4 kids. And one of her big complaints is all we do is race and scream to get out of the house
Mm,
in time for school. And that's every morning. And she's like, she was telling me about a month ago, I have it recorded, about how now they don't race around and they get out happily. They have time to play a little game together. They, walk out of the door calmly. And something had happened. I'm trying to remember what. Something happened to cause them to be late this one day. And so they got, it got a little more hurried that day. And her son says to her, "Oh, Mom, we need to reset. This is not how we do mornings." So the kids actually recognize,
Yeah.
the calm. They recognize it. They recognize you not yelling. I tell parents, if you decide you're not going to yell and you sit down with your children and say, "I'm going to really make an effort not to yell." There is not a child on this planet who's going to be like, "Oh, no, please yell at me. I really enjoy when you yell at me. Yell, 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 yell."
Yeah.
They're going to be on board with you. And then you
Mhm.
start working together to create that unity, that compromise, that cooperation, the listening skills. What's required to make harmony in your family instead of chaos and stress.
Mhm. Mhm. So valuable. And it sounds like a lot of that work is really bringing true calm and harmony internally for the parents. And I mean, like in the same way that no child wants to be yelled at, what parent wants to feel stressed and feel the need to yell? So I feel like a lot of the time it's just these patterns that are playing out, whether it's beliefs or just models of parenting that we've taken from others without question, and just
Absolutely.
this is the way it is. So bringing that conscious spotlight that you bring and kind of showing the dynamics and how it's causing these problems is, I can see how that's so impactful, Celia. So what is your higher vision of our world where families are more in calm? And because I mean, with everything that we've been learning about nervous system regulation and you know really what the foundation is for health and creativity and learning, there's so many things that have been coming to light in modern times, especially. Where do you see your work headed in terms of larger impacts?
Well, first, I think clarity needs to be in place. People need to understand that calm is your control. Calm is you being able to react to stress in a productive, calm way. We're not going to remove all the stressors of the world. We have no control over that. We have control over us, the way we
Mm,
act, the way we react to something. And we have to realize that reacting calmly is a superpower.
mm,
How many times you hear, "Well, if my kid's bullied, now somebody punches him in the nose, he's going to punch him right back."
yeah,
What are we solving by
yeah,
that?
right.
What are we solving? We have to realize it's like, do you remember, was it the Oscars where Will Smith and Chris Rock had that little debacle,
It blew up
so
the
to
internet.
speak? Yes.
And I'm not usually on the internet, and I still heard about it. So yes,
And
I do
what's
remember.
funny about it is I thought, I couldn't have hired two actors to
Right.
to really demonstrate my point better
Yeah.
than they did it in the real life.
Yeah.
He went up there, he was angry, he was raging, he was being ridiculous, he looked ridiculous, and he smacks Chris Rock in the face, which I'm sure hurt. He
Oh,
smacked him
yeah.
pretty hard, and nobody would have questioned if he smacked back. But what would have happened? They would have had a fight on national TV.
Right.
It would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Instead, Chris Rock laughed it off,
Yeah. He
and the
seemed
show
very
must go
calm.
on, and was super calm. And everybody talked about the aggressive act.
Mm, yes.
What they should have been talking about
Mm,
was the calm
yeah.
reaction,
Yeah.
that he was able to keep his composure. And again, I am sure that hurt. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
certainly
You could
surprised him. You
tell.
could
You could
tell.
tell it was in.
Right,
Yeah, for sure. For
right.
sure.
But he kept his composure, and he had a responsibility,
Yeah.
and he moved the show along. And who looked like the fool,
Yeah.
and it wasn't him.
hmm hmm
And what we don't realize is that we have that power. Like, I will ask parents, "What makes you yell?" And they'll go, "Oh, my kids make me yell.
hmm hmm
This makes me yell. When I'm at work, they make me yell. Whatever makes me yell." And I'm like, honestly, the only thing that makes you yell is you.
hmm
Nothing is making you, unless somebody's holding a gun to your head and says, "Yell." Okay, that might make you yell. But
Yeah.
nothing else makes you yell, but you make a
Mm,
decision to
yeah.
yell.
Yeah.
And if you can make a decision to yell, you can make a decision not to. And it's a matter, like you said, of having parents and adults and people in society realize that your control is your magic superpower. That is your
Mm-hmm.
magic. That is like I've spoken to groups of college students. I'll say, "What's the secret to life?" The
Mm-hmm.
one secret is that you're in control of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control of everything about you, and
Mm-hmm.
you are in control of nothing else.
Yeah.
Not what happens around you, not the news. Don't
Mm-hmm.
watch the news. Not the
Yeah.
media, not anything around you are you in control of, but you are fully in control of how you behave,
Mm-hmm.
how you respond to things, and how you respond to other people and how you make other people feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's your magic.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for a parent, coworker, spouse. Start appreciating each other. Stop judging. Stop criticizing. We're all humans. We
Mm-hmm.
all have different qualities about us. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Nobody like if you ever saw the Stepford Wives
Yeah.
back in the day, where all the wives were like exactly the same. It was super creepy.
Yeah.
Nobody wants, well, some people want everybody to believe the same, but how boring would that be?
Yeah.
God didn't give us a brain to be identical carbon copies of each
Mm-hmm.
other.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us a brain so we have free will and we can think for ourselves and educate ourselves. And I
Yeah.
really have no idea if that answered your question because I go on these tangents, Nathaniel.
That's
So
okay.
I
You
lose
clearly are
track
very
of
passionate,
what the
Celia.
question
You
was.
know, I think the core of it, though, that you're talking about, this concept of true self-responsibility, 100% responsibility for the things that we do control. I mean, that is such a high leverage point, and I think it can be such an awakening moment for people when they realize, because I feel like so much of our society is conditioned to focus on things that we can't control. That's why people are watching the news. They're
Yeah,
watching what's
that's
going
human
on in other
nature.
parts of the world, and I feel like that, marketers for a long time have known how to gain vested interest of our ego, because they know that if they show us things that are going to evoke feelings of survival or fear, that's a very easy way of getting our control. But when someone steps back and realizes that they have 100% not only control, but they also have 100% responsibility, I mean, that is a big step in mastery. And I feel like when I look at the whole journey of being a being, whether a human being or in any different respect, it is this larger journey of coming into a sense of mastery to ourselves. That's the only place that we can really find freedom, is in that ability that we're not reacting to life all the time, because who's free when they're constantly reacting? So I love that you're teaching families how to do this, because that unlocks, I would imagine, many other superpowers that are connected to that. Once you realize that you have the control to prevent yourself from yelling, well, you also have control to prevent yourself from going to reach for eating a whole bag of chips when you're feeling emotionally
Exactly.
uncomfortable. You also have the ability to stop, doom scrolling or whatever, and you
Right.
realize that there's this
Exactly.
point of decision. So I see it as a very important kind of leverage point.
Yeah, it's I talk about when I refer to parenting, I refer to it as a puzzle.
Hmm.
And nothing works unless all the puzzle pieces are in place. If you
Hmm.
take out one piece or two piece, it's gonna kind of work, but you're gonna have more symptoms. You're not gonna really heal the whole core of the problem. And that puzzle includes parents recognizing their triggers and what affects them and and when you start helping adults deal with what triggers them, then they're able to heal and move forward. Yeah, I do a
Yeah.
stop yelling challenge. And the first, and most people that do it with me stop yelling in the first day. And people go, it's like magic. I didn't yell all yesterday.
Hmm.
I don't know what you did, but I didn't yell. And all I do on that first day is I make them aware.
Yeah.
I make them aware of situations where they choose to yell.
Hmm.
And then they go into it. It's like that thing where you say if you buy a red car, you don't see any reds.
Yeah.
until you buy a red car. Now every single car on the road is
Yeah.
red.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you start recognizing the situations where you're quick to yell, you will, as we say, stop yourself from yelling
Yeah.
and be like, okay, I don't even feed them any tools at that point.
Hmm.
I just give them awareness
Yeah.
and
So important.
understanding how, also looking at how their children feel. How did they feel when they grew up and they were yelled at all the time or
Mm.
spanked or hit or whatever happened to them? How did they feel? Nobody enjoys it.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, yeah, please smack me again. That was great.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that awareness that everybody has to start with. You have to really look in the mirror
Mm.
and be like, where do I need to change? Where are my habits that I'd rather not pass on to my children?
Yeah. Yeah.
And be willing to learn a better way. We have a system in place for everything. How to go to the bathroom. We take off our pants. We don't pee through our pants. How to drive a car. How to be a doctor. How to be a plumber. How to be an electrician. How to be a teacher. We learn everything. And the one thing in life that we do that is the biggest responsibility on this planet, raising another human,
Mm.
we don't feel like we have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that Julie and I have talked a lot about, and what we realized, we had our daughter on Vancouver Island, very far away from all family, and we knew we were guided out there, and we were looking for conscious community because we had this sense that we had this purpose to fulfill with respect to, community, building bridges between communities. And anyways, all that to say is we're grateful we had that experience because the island is a very different consciousness. The vibes are, and also having our own space to go through that sacred, you know, life-changing event was really meaningful. And we also recognize that, this idea of raising children in a nuclear environment with just two people taking, the responsibility for all of the child is just, it's a very, we all talk about it takes a village to raise a child. And part of our vision is, you know, and I think it starts with the family unit. It starts internally, of course, but it starts with the family because when you have thriving families who are in harmony, who are calm, then it can create communities where our children are exposed to other role models of beings, and they see how we interact and help one another do things. And it all leads to a ripple effect for creating a much more equitable and harmonious world. But we've become very aware, just to touch on what you said, is like we never learned about how to be parents. No one ever taught us.
No one does.
And and it's other than just vicariously watching our parents. And so I feel like, conscious parenting is such a, it's just in the same vein that we don't reward mothers for doing a lot of that nurturing. In fact, now we're in an age where both couples are encouraged to go to work and send their children to daycare, and just this breaking apart of the family, I feel it needs to be corrected, like
Right.
in double speed. So what has been your remedy? Because clearly you teach parenting, and can you talk a little bit more about beabetterparent.com and what you do in terms of this?
Absolutely. And it's the I have mentioned the parenting puzzles. So there is like a framework for raising a harmonious family that raises good humans.
Mm.
Humans that carry on the healthy generational cycles, not
Mhm.
the unhealthy ones. And like you had mentioned before, our natural human sen- nature. I already said nature. Doesn't matter. Human nature naturally is to notice the negative and not notice the positive. And one of the things I teach parents is to start seeing the good your child does. Your child does far more good
Yep.
than not so good. I don't even like to say bad because they're not bad. There are just some things that worked out well, like we discussed earlier, and some things don't work out so well.
Yeah.
Except that's what we focus on. It's like I had a client who's who would get a letter home from her daughter's school, who was 5, saying your child didn't listen today, and she wasn't. And when before we started, she was like, if you get a bad letter, this consequence is going to happen. And so I started asking her when we started working together. I said, okay, so she was uncooperative for who knows what. I said, was that 100% of the day? Was that this much of the day? What about the rest of the day? I can't imagine she was uncooperative all day long. No, that was just during this lesson. I said, so we are going to judge this child who was great 95% of the time on 5% when something went wrong.
Mm.
And that's what we do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the schools do it. Families do it. It's always like, and that's why kids grow up thinking I'm a bad kid because they never get acknowledged for what they do right. It's always a reaction to what they do that's not right.
Yeah.
So we need to have that acknowledgement. You need to start recognizing what your kids do right, which is a lot, and letting them know you recognize it. Don't just go, I always start my coaching calls with wins. What went right? And I had this one recently, and mom's like, I honestly can't think of anything. I'm like, think. I can't think of anything. I'm like, okay, did they go to school today? Yes. Did they wake up on time? Yes. Did they eat their breakfast? Yeah. Did they get dressed? Yes. Did they brush their teeth? Yes. Did they get to the school bus on time? Yes. I said, well, there's 6 things. 6 things they did right, and you couldn't think of one thing. Everything in life is a choice. Everything. We need to recognize that in ourselves, like we talked about, our control. We need to recognize it in our children. They have a choice, just like we do for everything. They can cooperate or not cooperate, then get up or not get up, then get dressed or not get dressed. They can eat or not eat. Everything's a choice. Every minute, every day, you make a choice. You have to start recognizing and being appreciative of the effort your child puts in, your partner puts in. If you're married or you have a partner, whatever that relationship looks like, start appreciating each other. It's game changer. But there is a framework. You need to have schedules and routines. You need to have limits and boundaries. You need to have consequences. You need to have encouragement. You need to have calm communication. You need to have choices. I mean, there's a pretty big framework of what needs to put this puzzle together. And that's what I teach parents.
That's beautiful. And as you were talking, it occurred to me that a lot of the behaviors that seem quote unquote bad are often just inconvenient to the care providers, whether it's a teacher or a parent. It's just not what they want. But like I think of our daughter who's like she's playing with her food, she's taking yogurt in her hands and she just wants to feel what that is and just throwing stuff on the ground. It's like it's not that those things are inherently wrong or bad. She's being playful and she's communicating
And
that
age
she's probably
appropriate.
and age appropriate. So if we were to yell at her and to grab her, and say that's so wrong, and she's gonna internalize that. And it's interesting. I'll share something. So in our family, we grew up where there was this term of endearment, and we were as children called stinkers because we were like misbehaved, but
Right.
not misbehaving, but like in a very playful way. Like you're a
Right.
stinker, you're being silly. And we noticed this pattern with our daughter, and I feel like she's a very advanced being. Like I believe in reincarnation. I have had my own direct experiences, and I just think
I
she's an
agree.
advanced soul.
There are wise old souls and
Oh,
new souls.
yeah.
100% with you.
Well, and so anyway, so I noticed like I sometimes use that term with her, and my a few relatives would do this thing. I don't know why. Even with babies, like my sister would do this, smell the feet and go, "Oh, stinky," and like put the feet. And my dad and Julia's mom was doing this too. And then just the other day, Luciana was just she told we were both in the room, and she's like, "My feet are gross." And we're like, "Oh my goodness, your feet are not gross at all. Your feet are beautiful." And she thought her genuinely that she was stink. She was stinky and had stinky feet. And so we told everyone like, stop doing that. Like I think we need to be really mindful of even when we're being playful and we think that we're being like,
Goofy.
funny or
Right.
yeah. it often is not how the child perceives it. And I feel like um, so many of those little things, if uncorrected, can lead to these beliefs about ourselves down the road, which cause
Right,
us to, have self-confidence issues and all kinds of things. And
right.
yeah, it's really
I have
important.
it's important to remember the kids are very black and white. I
Yeah.
remember when Kyle, my son, who's now 37, was like 2 and might have been 3. But the cat would bite. So my cat was very jealous of him.
Hmm.
And I would hear him taking a nap, and then I'd hear him blood curdling scream, and I
Oh.
knew that the cat jumped on the bed, bit him, and ran away. Like that was her thing. And one time I was so sick of the cat biting him, I sat with him and I um calmed him down from being bit. And I said, "You know what, Kyle? We're gonna send um I want to say Lily, that's my cat now. For some reason I can't remember her name. It escapes me. We're gonna send her to a farm because I think she's just being too wild and she's hurting you a lot." And Kyle's response, "If I'm bad, will you send me to a farm?"
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
like, "Okay, no farm, no, no one's going to a farm. Zap that
Such
concept.
an
No one's
innocent
going to a
question.
farm.
Yeah.
Cat's staying here. You're staying here. No farm. We got no farms going on." But they're so black and white, and we don't realize it. They
Hmm.
take things literally. They don't have that mind
Hmm.
to, like look at it in a different way. It's like, do you ever see the movie Angels in the Outfield? It's a Disney movie. It's
I don't
awesome.
think
You
so.
should see it if you
Yeah.
haven't. It's a
Okay.
fabulous movie. The newer version. There's a really old version. Well, there's a little scene in it where they're playing baseball and he's coaching like the little league team, but there's this little kid playing. And he goes, "Why don't you take a turn?" And he hits and he gets to first base. And the coach says to this little boy, "Run home, run home, run home." And he like leaves the diamond and he's headed down the street. And he looks at this other kid and he goes, "Where's he going?" He goes, "Well, you told him to
Run
run
home.
home." They're very literal,
Hmm.
so that's part of the problem. It's like, with potty training, and it seems odd, but a lot of times kids have difficulty with pooping because we do the same thing with feet. We're like, "Oh, stinky. Oh, that's a nasty one. Oh,
Hmm.
that's a bad one. Whoa, whoa, whoa." And then they get this like horrible opinion
Hmm.
where we should be like, I mean, sounds funny, but we should be like, "Good job, you
Yeah.
pooped.
Yeah.
Yay," like celebrate it so they're
Hmm.
not fearful of it. And it doesn't create this whole weird thought around parts of their body or
Yeah.
things that are happening because they're very literal.
Hmm. So important. And I can see the implications of these in a larger societal sense, right? I feel like, whether it's from religious institutionalization or just like perceptions that we have of ourselves, I feel like, humankind has been told a lot of beliefs about itself. And I question all beliefs. It's just something I've always done. I believe that there's no beliefs that are unquestionable. And this idea that there are things, whether it's our sexuality or body functions that are inherently bad or wrong, I feel like that's led to a lot of dysfunction in our society. So by helping
100%.
by helping the family unit correct some of these things, I see how that has like much bigger implications. So I think this is a good caveat to ask you more about the Day of Calm and your foundation. Celia, can you let us know more about that and what it is and how people can get involved with it?
Absolutely. So, briefly, one day when the world was in its usual way of, "I hate you. I've known you for 40 years. You don't agree with me. I hate you. You're not my friend anymore." That whole like dynamic. And I was like, "You know what? This world just needs to calm down. Just
Mm,
like, just needs to calm down. I'm going to create a day." This is how it got started. I'm going to call it the International Day of Calm. I'm going to create a day. And then when my dad passed away, I did create the day, and I made it April 5th, which was the day he passed away in 2020.
mm,
And um, it's my whole vision is yes, I can reach as many parents as I reach and that are willing to get help, that don't feel like they're going to get made fun because, society, like it makes fun when you're trying to do something better
Mm.
and it makes fun when you don't.
Yeah.
There's a no-win situation. And I decided what we need to do is it's not just parents that need to learn, it's everybody.
Mm.
Everybody in society needs to learn that calm and approaching things calmly and intentionally
Mm-hmm.
is what is going to resolve violence and crime against
Mm.
children. I mean, it's going to take a time, but that's a long-term solution.
Mm-hmm.
Getting guns, everybody wants to attack guns. I'm not saying guns are bad or good. And I'm not saying we don't need gun control. Of course we do. But taking the gun out of the hand of someone who is raging and violent is not going to take away. The rage and violence doesn't go with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
It stays with the person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to figure out a way to release it
Mm-hmm.
because they have grown up in such an angry way that they have taken all of that anger and kept it inside and it grew into a monster.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get society recognizing young parents recognizing that there is a better way to raise a child and it's not soft, and it doesn't mean we let them do whatever we want to do. Of course we don't. They need boundaries. They need a framework. They need structure to really thrive. They need consequences. They need these things.
Mm-hmm.
To actually mean not to have those things.
Yeah.
But we also have to affect the adults that walk the planet that have no emotional regulation and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that are throwing tantrums all the time, that are raging, that feel like, the only way we're going to manage this situation is to take it over. There's no compromise. I mean, I don't have to tell you that when two people are screaming and yelling at each other, nothing's getting accomplished.
Right.
Nothing. And it's making matters worse.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized that this could be a way that we help society and humanity really find that their personal responsibility, their emotional intelligence is so key to everyday life and the way we interact respectfully with other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the summit, so yes, I wanted to have a day, but I didn't want to just have a day where we said, okay, everybody calm down. Here's your day. Everybody calm down on April 5th. I wanted to teach. I wanted to give them experts from around the world that specialize in all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have someone who's an expert in making money.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have someone that's making money? Because money is a huge stressor in people's lives and causes huge dysfunction in relationships.
Yeah.
You need somebody talking about money because, well, like I said before, calm is not the absence of stress. Calm is understanding and handling it and making it better for you and whoever you have life with. And so we add the 3 days of summit talks around the day of calm so that you can actually learn, well, how can I do it? If I'm emotionally unintelligent, how can I learn to be emotionally intelligent? If I never learned that as a child, and most people don't that come out that way, no one's teaching them because they're coming from the same rage and aggravation and aggression that they've learned. That's what they've learned.
Mm-hmm.
It's that generational cycles of dysfunction and abuse that go and go and go. Somewhere you have to decide, I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to learn a better way. So we bring together the International Day of Calm Global Summit. It is a global gathering for humanity. It's the best way I can describe it. If we are going to change humanity, we have to start with changing ourselves. And can one person make a change? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
One person that decides, I'm going to get control over me. I am going to be the person I ultimately want to see when I look in the mirror. That person affects the next person, affects the next person. And ultimately, as Indigenous people say, affects 7 generations to come.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
should be our duty to do this. I mentioned my dad. My dad had done amazing things for mankind. He's the reason we put seatbelts on when we get in the car. Him and his four buddies decided airplane seatbelts should go in automobiles one day, and we
Hmm.
have them. And he saved
Interesting.
millions and millions of lives through it. He's worked on the Apollo missions. He's like done amazing things for the world.
Hmm.
He always felt he was mediocre and nothing special.
Hmm.
And that comes from the way he was raised.
Hmm.
Your children, if you're raising them aggressively, yelling, screaming, hitting, whatever, like you see on the internet, this is what this child needs. You are raising a child that's not going to grow up to hate you. They're going to grow up to hate themselves.
Hmm.
And the more people that inhabit this planet that hate themselves,
Hmm.
you're going to end up with more and more violence against humanity.
Yeah. Profound. You see the implications. So it starts on April 3rd, is it? The
Starts on
summit?
April 3rd. It goes April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. We usually end on the 5th, but this year Easter falls on the 5th.
Okay.
So, what we decide to do, since we like to have 3 live sessions, April 3rd, 4th, and 6th will be live experts. These
Okay.
are doctors, healers, all kinds of variety people that specialize in parenting and all different things.
Okay.
They will be live on April 3rd, 4th, and 6th, where you can ask Q&A,
Okay.
questions and answers. We'll have a couple hours where if you're, you can just join all the speakers and ask questions. April 5th, there will still be the summit, but it will be recorded sessions.
Okay.
So we are teamed up with the forest nature medicine people,
Hmm.
and they are doctors that have reached for finding medicine through nature. They're
Beautiful.
going to have a whole program. They are part of our foundation. So this is great for medical people, teachers, parents, humans that just want to find more calm in their life,
Hmm.
healers, you name it. This conference, this summit is for everybody because there's so much upheaval in this world right now. I think you would agree it's time to change it. And you can
Hmm.
register for free at calmsummit.org, CALM summit, SUMMIT.org. We also ask for a donation because this year we are working hard to rebuild the brilliant nursery and primary school in Uganda. It's
Hmm.
a school I teach at throughout the year.
Okay.
And these kids go to school, and their school is wood, mud floors. Basically, the wood panels break apart. Their desks are just wood slats. They break apart all the time. They walk miles to their school without shoes, and they're so happy to be there. I can't
Hmm.
even tell you how happy these kids are to be in school because if they're not in school, all the horrors that happen to children happen to these kids. A lot
Hmm.
of them deal with child abuse. We lost a 6-year-old to
Hmm.
child abuse in his own home. There is early marriage. There is sex crimes against them, and a lot of tons of poverty. They're all poverty afflicted, and a lot of them live in either orphanages or have no homes because there's a huge AIDS epidemic there.
Okay.
So he's managed to bring 400 people to this school, and it
Wow.
is time to build them a school.
Okay.
These
Wow.
kids deserve it.
So
So
the
that
donations are
we
going
ask
towards
for
that.
donations.
Okay.
Absolutely. So if
Well,
you go to comsummit.org, it will also ask for donations. Sorry.
no need to be. I mean, it's just profound the work that you're doing, Celia. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Just a moment. As you can tell, I'm still getting over a little bit of some congestion.
That's all
I
right.
really
I'm glad you're
appreciate your.
feeling better.
Thank you. I really appreciate your mission, your larger vision to help our world, and also, focus on building a school. I think is really beautiful. Um, I always love asking our inspiring guests, if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world all at once, what would you like to say?
So if I could talk to the whole world at once, and hopefully I'll talk to a lot of the world coming up, I want to say one of the main messages I want people to know about and truly consider and not think it's hokey, because it is scientifically proven not to be hokey, is to practice gratitude daily.
Mm,
Be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. We have so much abundance in our lives.
mm,
And if we practice it daily, the magic of gratitude daily is that if every day you have to speak 3 or 4 things that you're grateful for, and you encourage your children, if you have children, to do the same, one day when you're repetitive on the same thing and the same thing, you're going to all of a sudden go, you know what? I'm glad I have dirty dishes,
mhm.
because if I didn't have food to eat, there'd be no dirty dishes.
Yeah, yeah.
If I didn't have clothes, there'd be no laundry.
Mm.
And that shift, and your children will look for things to be grateful for. And that shift is when the magic happens. And when we're grateful, attitudes change.
I think that's such a profound message, and it's been the core of some of the community work that I've done too. I really believe, gratitude is fundamental to everything, and I think it's such a deep teaching, and it's something that really could heal the whole world if we really recognized there's always something to be grateful for that we could focus on. So, what a
Always.
beautiful message, Celia, and what a wonderful presence you have. Really looking forward to the summit, and we will put all of this in our show notes as well. Before I ask our daughter Luciana to come and thank everyone for watching, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Just to always remember that there is much more good in humanity than
Hmm.
not so good.
Hmm.
I will never believe that we are more not good. I don't like to say bad
Yeah.
than good.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
more good. There are more of us that are on this planet that
Hmm.
are good. Don't believe the news. Don't believe what
Yeah.
you hear.
Yeah.
Most people want positivity.
Hmm.
Most people want to see the good in others. Don't be afraid of other people.
Hmm.
Ask questions. Be curious like a child.
Hmm.
Curiosity is a gift.
Hmm.
Explore, learn, grow, and find the good and notice the positive.
Yeah.
Grateful.
I really appreciate your passion and everything you have you've shared with us, and I can see that you have so much more to share, Celia. So I strongly encourage our listeners to go and check out the Calm Summit, and to check out beabetterparent.com. And it's really wonderful having you on the show. You know, we could go on. I'm sure we can
We
continue this
could.
conversation.
I'm
Yeah.
sure these people have something else to do with their lives. But
Well,
I appreciate them being here.
yeah, totally. And on that note, blessings to you and all those who you touch, and all those who will be attending the Calm Summit, Celia, as well as to all of our viewers and listeners as well. Highest blessings and best wishes. And we look forward to seeing you again, and to seeing how your work continues to impact the world around us.
For watching.
Thank watching.
Say have a great day.
Have a good day.
I love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Soon.
Hey, bye. Nacho. Mwah.